What's up, everybody? It's Dan Physics from Ex Machina Soundworks in Brooklyn, New York. We're here today with the one and only Ryan Harvey. How you doing, Ryan?
Doing well. How are you, Dan?
Good, man. Good. Thank you for doing this. And I've been wanting to get you on an interview for a minute, so thank you.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for making amazing speakers.
Well, thank you for that. I guess we can
Yeah.
just get going here. I guess
Yeah,
we'll
awesome.
start off with the juicy questions. Could you share a bit about your background and how you got started in music production?
Oh, okay, tight. So I think I was 16 or 15 or whatever, and
Hmm.
I was always plugging my metal zone into the green auxiliary port in the sound card with like, going quarter inch to
Oh,
like
you'll
to
sound
eighth
blaster
inch.
cards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. The sound blaster, and then eventually you break your sound blaster card from the weight
Right.
of the angle of the you know and then you start learning more about sound cards and you're like, oh, there's
Right.
mixers. That's cool.
Uh-huh.
So I was in a band and I didn't want to. I mean, like, we weren't making any money. I was like 16. I was like, I can't pay for recordings. And I also sat in on a few of the like college recording or whatever. And I was like, okay, this doesn't sound sick at all. Like, so I'm going to try it because I guess the learning gap's pretty hard. And um, I started fucking learning how to program drums and like then or also like recording a whole bunch of like three or four SM57s in my bedroom going into a mixer that was going into like what was it, the M Audio Fast Track Pro or some shit like that. Like, so like, yeah, summing it down and then tracking guitars over that. But I I just, I started working on my band stuff, and then I started recording bands around town, and I got on the Andy Sneap forum and I learned about like double tracking guitars and programming drums, and then I started doing that, and then I could make bad bands sound sick. So then, like, I just started making everyone sound awesome around me, like way tighter. Everyone, and like, kind of did that in my area. So that started getting going, and then I ended up recording this band called Kublai, and that record was tight, and it got Will Putney's attention, and then I worked for him for a little, and then I left there and moved to Brooklyn and started, fucking just trying to make it as an audio engineer in New York is like pretty wild, especially if you record heavy music because there's no heavy local band. Like, I mean, there is, but like they don't really have budgets. Not a thing because most of those people can't even afford to practice in New York. And then, yeah, so and then I guess my audio, I mean, this was shit, like what, like 7 or 8 years later since like I was recording into the Sound Blaster. So really, I've just been jumping around and making records. And yeah, but like, I guess the thing that kind of like got it all started for me or whatever was like, I've always loved guitar tone like a lot. And
Mhm.
so I made some impulses on the Andy Sneap forum, and that kind of took off my career because a lot of people made some incredible guitar records off of that.
Using your impulses.
Yep.
Cool.
So, like, basically, the hindsight of it, or like the whole entire thing, is like recorded local bands, figured out how to make a really really sick impulse, tried to do some records. They did decently well. I never really broke into the like, like, oh, number one rock producer shit, and so I kind of figured out that like I had a niche kind of like work set of like like, I don't know, developing tools, I want to say, or whatever. But yeah, so I get, that's the whole story of like how I got into it. Oh man, like just feel it and make sure, like, just like make sure you track it right. And like, that doesn't mean like mic it right or whatever. It just means like make sure the performance is like literally like every artist that walks out of that door should be saying, "Thanks for making me a better musician,"
Cool.
because you grill them
Right.
until you get what you
Or
want out of it. I don't know.
you try to be there to catch the baby.
Yeah. Is that what it's called? Attach the baby?
Catch the baby, like you're catching the baby. So you
Oh
press
yeah,
record, you help you catch the baby.
yeah, it's
So,
that. It's exactly that.
so can you explain how Ex Machina loudspeakers have impacted your work? They provide you any unique benefits that other speakers don't.
Okay. So I first got them when you sent me to them when I was living in Tulsa during the pandemic, after I left New York, and I was in an untreated room, like not really designed for audio. It was the living room of my house, and I had the Amphions up, but I started recording hip hop clients. Right now, my metal clients, it's whatever. I'm not pushing like 30s and 40s that much, you know what I mean? At like pretty good SPLs because they want to crank it up. Like they don't really care. And like most of my mixing work in like the metal and rock world was never like supervised because that's usually where I'd grab all the bands from like around the world and shit like that for mixing. But I started recording rappers and doing more hip hop shit, right? And the Amphions did not like. I do not like turning them up at all. Went out. I had those JBL 306s that I grabbed from a friend for like $150 or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and those were like my client pleasers. You know what I mean? Like just the Punisher speakers. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, I want to get the Amphion sub, and you were like, try these Ex Machinas, and I was like, okay. And I got him, and I was like, dude, why does this sound better than like most rooms in New York with like that are like built like studios,
Right.
like with just the raw Ex Machinas? And I was like, and I know a little bit of the science that goes into like the design with them from like what we've talked about and such, but
Mm-hmm.
they I just they just get out of the way for me. Like they sound like nothing. You know what I mean? And it just lets me
Yeah.
get in there. But they also have great SPL, and like I can trust what I'm hearing.
Cool.
And while
Uh,
yeah, and while like oh sorry, and I was gonna say while like the Amphion's definitely I still like dialing guitar tones on them. I think they're really great to work on and they're fun. But like what the Pulsars give me is like it's full. It's awesome. And being here at Make Believe, we have them set up right here, with this beautiful sounding room. Uh, you know, they sound so good. I love them. So,
well, yeah.
oh no. So I was saying, like, back to the original question. Sorry, I ramble on.
It's fine.
If like what I don't, I can't. I haven't been in this game long enough, and my ears aren't like someone at Sterling's or whatever to be like, oh, I've heard every room and every speaker, so I
Mm.
can't fully say they don't like, that they're like the end all be all. But for me, I love them. I think they're
Mm.
awesome. They give me everything I need of them. They're loud, they're punchy, they're clear. We use them with the DSP off just because we're
Interesting.
tracking so often.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And like you can't really hear the bass note of a Moog on an NS10, but you can hear it on the Ex
Right.
Machina, which is tight.
Nice.
Yeah,
Interesting.
so I get full range, and I get just I love what I'm hearing out of them.
Nice.
But it's really
Well,
the
I guess
full range. Like,
yeah. Cool. Well, I guess that leads to the next question. I would say, could you share an instance where using Ex Machina's loudspeakers that made a noticeable difference in your mixing process?
um, I definitely got a lot more people saying, oh, like when I went from the Amphions to the Ex Machinas back in Tulsa, they were just like, yeah, this stuff. I don't know what you did recently, but everything just breathes more. And I found myself using way less, just way less of everything.
Yeah, it's kind of
And
my
and in
my
return, I move
experience.
faster.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of really been my experience with working on them is that like I do much less work than in terms of like much less processing and a lot less compression, just a different way of working. So yeah, to your point, I like that breathing more. It's certainly something that I can echo, and I've seen other people say a similar thing. So that's cool. Nice.
Yeah.
So you were involved in a really cool software development project recently. How about you tell us about that?
With working at Make Believe.
Yep.
Yeah. So, well, the only one that I worked on was S-Pres, which is just my impulse turned into a plugin via Metric Halo and Make Believe. I love it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't around for the developing of the other parts. That was Dan and Rick and
Got it.
Justin are the key, and BJ from Metric
Mm-hmm.
Halo and Joe. They're the key pieces of that. I joined Make Believe right after the plugins were developed,
Got it.
but it's been
But you were
amazing to see this.
sure. But you weren't you were you weren't around when when Burgess was working on the EQ?
Nope, I wasn't.
Oh.
I wasn't around for that. I mean, I got to sit in and experience him listening to it for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
which that was pretty awesome. The
Yeah.
Soundtech is, I just don't want to speak out of anything that's outside of my boundaries. You know what I mean?
Sure. Sure.
But the Soundtech is fucking great, and we've done the comparisons ourselves, um, and we've had some of the best ears on it. And
Nice.
just being a part of I guess I handle the social aspect of it
Mm-hmm.
at Make
Using
Believe.
marketing and yeah.
Yeah. So just getting to see everyone's reactions. Like the coolest part was sending it to all the Sontech users, like the actual Burgess's, like, hey, it's got to pass these people's opinions,
Mm-hmm. Right.
and just seeing it here and back and just being like, whoo, that's amazing.
Nice. Very
Yeah.
cool.
So, but we are developing a ton of new stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait for everyone to check it out. I don't want to give anyone any dates or whatever, anything like that. You can, so if I said anything in that, just
Sure.
clip it from the interview.
No, you didn't. Like you don't. I mean, you don't have
Okay.
to give away dates if you want to talk about some of the stuff. That's totally cool.
Yeah. I mean, I can talk about make believe plugins all the time. I love being here. It's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. Like working with Rick is fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Dude knows so much stuff and is just a great leader and a great dude.
Nice. Well, I guess that
Yeah.
leads into the next question. Then is like, are there any upcoming projects or collaborations you could share with us?
I can't say any,
Okay.
but give dates to anything.
Mm-hmm.
Or kind of names, but if you go back through and watch our Instagram reels of our trip
Yeah.
that we had back in January,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of cool stuff that
Cool.
everyone can be like, oh,
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I think you shared
so
something with me about Sylvia Massey as a like something you
yep,
guys are working on. So that's cool. So that's more or less what you're
yep,
talking about. Those are the reels. Nice. Very cool.
yeah, the Army Man, and also with that one, I don't know how much I can say about that,
Yeah, that's fine.
but I know
Like,
that we've posted about it. You know what I mean?
sure.
Yeah,
Cool.
I just got to be
Cool.
careful with names.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair.
You already
How
know how it goes. You know how
I
it
do.
goes.
I certainly do. I guess lastly, it's like, what's the best piece of advice you've received in your career, and how has it shaped you as a mix engineer, or as an engineer in general, mixing, recording?
Man, I don't know. There's so many, like when you're mixing records and stuff like that. It's like funny enough, it's like I don't have a direct quote because there's just so many I know, but I feel
Mm-hmm.
like the ultimate mantra or whatever for me is like it's everything that you've learned in therapy, do the opposite of. React, get emotional,
Mm-hmm.
overreact, you know what I mean? Like feel it. Feel it
Mm-hmm.
110%. And don't think about it, just react to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And instead of trying to analyze it as a whole, just
Right.
react to your initial to your initial listening,
Hmm.
which is like completely the opposite advice they give you in therapy and like just life in general. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Totally the opposite.
Yeah.
Where you're
No,
like, don't
that's that.
overreact, just breathe, and
Yeah.
like, no. Like,
Yeah. Now that reminds me of something I remember. I was visiting Tom Elmhurst once at Electric Lady, and we were talking about gear, and I had mentioned I took some stuff to him to try out, and he kind of like there was one thing that had a lot of knobs on it. We'll say, and I asked him, I was like, "What'd you think of it?" He's like, "Well, I liked it," but he's like, I'm not really interested in using it." And I'm like, "Well, why not?" He's like, "Well, because it makes me have to think too much about what I'm doing instead of feeling what I'm doing." And he's like, the more I get into the analytical brain, the more I'm disconnected from the feeling of the song in that moment. And like, I might not make a decision that really supports what I'm feeling if I'm thinking too much about it. So I was like, oh,
that's
that's
exactly
interesting.
how I
So
feel. What was it? No, the real quote, and this is one that I heard through Rick. Al Schmidt told Rick one time, if your balances suck, you suck.
interesting.
That's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And straight to the point. Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I guess finally to round us out, where can people find more about you? Like social media, website, could be Make Believe, could be your
Um,
Instagram.
yeah, it probably, if you want to check out what I'm doing in life, it just would be at Ryan Harvey, which is HyanRarvey. And if you're interested in what's going on at Make Believe, which I'm gonna give you a little hint, my whole entire life is make believe. I don't have a hobby. You're not gonna find anything if you just want to see more make believe stuff than what we post. Just go to my Instagram.
Mhm.
But
Cool.
yeah, and that is at Make Believe Studio.
Cool. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yup.
Nice.
Which
Anything you guys are,
what we're giving away a cool Boss CE2 that was owned by Josh Scott for when we hit 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube. So that's kind of
nice.
cool,
So
right?
can they find that through Instagram or,
Oh yeah, for sure.
nice. What's your
Yep,
YouTube channel?
Make Believe Studio,
Cool.
I think.
Awesome.
Well, give me
Awesome.
1 second to check if it with an S or it's Studio. Yep, it's just at Make Believe Studio.
Cool. Very, very cool.
YouTube.com/at Make Believe Studio. Yep, and like the cool thing we're doing here right now is like we're buying a whole bunch of guitars and we're restoring stuff because I think that
Like,
stuff's cool.
you be actually restoring the guitars, like old vintage stuff.
Yep. Yeah,
Oh.
and amps and stuff like that. Yep. Like so 1982 Fenders right now from the Fullerton line is like the cool
Hmm.
thing that we're doing. And
Cool.
yeah, so like, consolidating upwards, we have so many guitars and it's awesome. I love them.
Hmm.
I purposely don't play them here sometimes because I don't want to fall in love with them because I don't know the future of them. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like
Right.
someone just brought it
Sure.
and like it'll be like, oh, check out this 2002 Les Paul, and I'm like, ooh, that is beautiful. It's not like a 1959 or whatever, but I'm like, oh, I bet it plays great, and it does. And now I don't
Hmm.
want to sell it, but but we're gonna sell it.
Yeah, I know that like that issue with gear in general. It's like, oh man, this thing is so cool, especially used gear. Like when working at Alto, when you get a piece of used gear and you're like, ah, I hope no one buys it before like I can.
Right? I mean, dude, we got the Army Man, and it's like I could use that, but I'm gonna be sad
Hmm.
if it's gone,
Right.
or if anything happens to it. Like, dude,
Sure.
no. you know.
Right.
But like, yeah. So Dan, I have a question for you.
Hmm.
What's the craziest gear come up you've ever had?
What do you mean by gear come up?
Like you just like got that on a super sick deal.
Ooh. Interesting. I'll tell you, I got an RE20 for $10 once. Um,
Dude, awesome.
Yeah, there's back in the day when I worked at Guitar Center, we had gotten this like GC would do rentals and stuff, and basically um, we got back a rental of a whole bunch of things, but they also included an RE20 in the in the pile, which wasn't stock, wasn't a part of the rental, and we were like trying to get in touch with the person who did the rental and never came to claim the guitar or the mic, and it sat in this like just sat in the manager's desk for like 30 days or whatever. He's like, you've got to give it like 30 plus 1 day. And on the 31st day, I went into his office and I grabbed the mic. I'm like, I'm buying this. How much can I buy it for? He's like, $10.
And you're like,
sold.
Say less.
So yeah, I would say it's like that was a cool one. There's a few more I could talk about back in the day old synthesizer acquisitions, but like it's funny, like
are awesome.
Yeah, the Core made the Poly 800, and like there's like the green one, and then there's also the dark navy blue, and there was a period of time back in the day where like you couldn't give those away, and somehow I ended up with like 3 of them just on like gear trades and different like trades. And the funny thing is,
I look like, now I have this thing I'm going to add to it, and you're like,
right, okay. Just take it from me, please. And yeah. Nowadays I look online and it's sort of like the resale value. I'm like, people are getting $500, $600, $700 for them. I'm like, for those, you couldn't give those away back in the day,
right?
So, yeah, that's probably it. I mean, if I took a little more time to think about it, I could probably remember a few more. But yeah, there's definitely been some interesting ones. So, I've even heard some interesting stories from other people also that have had their own sort of like gear, kind of like crazy gear acquisitions.
Dude, I got a Sontec 250EX for $700 from Guitar Center because they thought it was broken.
Right, I remember you told me that. Yeah,
dude. I feel great about that one. I was like, that's tight. That's cool.
Yeah, you're like, score.
Oh yeah,
nice.
I was like, that's cool. I think it was at the church or something like that, which is like a studio that they have back in Tulsa. They restored Leon Russell's church studio, but they like didn't improve it.
Okay,
like it's like it's still like a '60s control room, like acoustically.
Wow. Oh. That's
it's an echo chamber in there, dude. The live room's still got like a 4-second decay, which is sick. Don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? You put some gobos up, you're killing it on drums. But it's just like, dude, come on. Like, you had a chance to make this really awesome.
Yeah, it's funny because like you get into some of those like rooms, you're like, what? How did you make records in these rooms all that long ago? So. I mean, 60s and 70s acoustics weren't all the rage, but
right. And I mean, like, Make Believe's cool too because like Rick designed this spot, and it's like a very, very classic American recording studio.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like awesome, but it sounds so good in here.
Nice. Yeah, I see some of the wood in the wall, the treatment behind you and stuff. So.
Y'all, you already know. It's all just like basically fabric wall with like giant traps behind the wall and then some other things. But it sounds great. Yeah.
Nice. Very cool.
Tight. Well, anything else you want to get into?
No, that's about it for now. I appreciate your time.